Hi there, this is Solitaire Ronan from Solitaire Ronan Films, and welcome to a new series called My Consecutive Criterions. Now this is just a bit of fun, just going through the Criterion collection and seeing my consecutive Criterion numbers of at least 3 releases. There's no point doing 2 consecutive numbers, that would be ridiculous. Now obviously I am not Criterion complete, unlike the Master Daisuke Beppu, and that would be a bit pointless doing my consecutive Criterions if I was complete, because you'd just do 1 to 1200 and whatever it is now. So I'm not complete, so I'm just going to dive in and do little runs of consecutive Criterions and just have a little chat about them. Again, I'm not going to do extensive reviews of them, just kind of have a little chat. So my first run of consecutive Criterions in my collection is 51, 52 and 53. So number 51, this is a Region A Blu-ray, even though I do have, or did have, the DVD 3 disc DVD little box set. It's Terry Gilliam's Brazil, which is my favourite Terry Gilliam film, and bizarrely it's the only one that seems to be not on Criterion 4K, apart from Jabberwocky. Which is a bit strange, because for me it's the best Terry Gilliam film, and it's the one that's not on 4K. Meanwhile, I'm not really sure the people who are asking for every other Terry Gilliam in 4K, whether it's really necessary. Obviously not all of his films, but in the Criterion collection, Fisher King's got a 4K, I believe. Time Bandits has now got a 4K, which seems a bit bizarre, but never mind. Made in 1985. The proper version is 142 minutes. Now obviously this is legendary, as the studio hated the final cut and Terry Gilliam got into a war with them through the media, because the media at the time was pretty much just papers and magazines. Can you believe it? Obviously younger viewers will be boggled by that. So they released the Love Conquers All version, which had a happy ending, and it was cut down to 94 minutes from 142, so that's a bit of a difference. Obviously it's not the Magnificent Ambersons, where it's just like butchered and we'll never get it again. So fortunately we have the full version. This is a 2-disc Region A, obviously with a booklet about the transfer, special thanks, and an essay by David Sterrett entitled A Great Place to Visit, Wouldn't Want to Live There. This is your classic totalitarian state, utopia that's not quite utopia, of course. I mean, how many films about utopia turn out that it's actually utopia? I mean, I know it was a trope that there's always some dark underbelly to utopia. Jonathan Pryce in a starring role, which didn't really happen that often, because he's not what you would call that Hollywood star face. De Niro and a cameo as an air conditioning engineer and also a revolutionary. Catherine Helmond as Jonathan Pryce's mother, who's obsessed with plastic surgery. Ian Holm, the wonderful Ian Holm, as his boss. Bob Hoskins, with a wonderful turn. Michael Palin, proving he could actually be a serious actor. Ian Richardson, threatening as ever. Peter Vaughan, Kim Greist, who obviously is in this as the love interest in 1985, and then of course she would be in Manhunter in 1986. That's a pretty impressive back-to-back. And then not really in that much more. I know I'm forgetting one, but Brazil and Manhunter is not bad. Jim Broadbent, who seems to have been in 4,000 films in his career. So the 2-disc, you get What is Brazil, which is an on-set documentary, which is wonderful. The Production Notebook, a collection of interviews and video essays featuring a trove of Brasiliania from Gilliam's personal collection. The Battle of Brazil, which is a wonderful documentary about the film's contentious release, hosted by Jack Matthews and based on his book of the same name. And you do get the Love Conquers All version, the 94-minute version with the happy ending that was stuck on, was released by the studio, and Gilliam had to fight them to get the 142-minute released. Now, obviously Gilliam doesn't help himself, and we've kind of learned that throughout his career. You know, Gilliam's view of himself as this amazing artist is perhaps not a true reflection of his talent. You know, a lot of his films, there's good ideas, but there's also, they are a bit messy and self-indulgent at times. I mean, you could argue Brazil has those elements as well, but personally I can put up with those in Brazil, whereas other films perhaps I'm a little bit less tolerant of. I just love the world, the production design is fantastic. There is actually a little link between Brazil and Spine numbers 52 and 53. And the idea of kind of just this worn down drone at the office and having a fantasy life is something that I think we can all relate to. Certainly I can relate to that, the difference between fantasy and reality, the difference between wanting to stay in the department that he knows as opposed to getting these promotions, and climbing the ladder. Some people just don't want to climb the ladder. I know that's hard to believe for some people. I think it's just an absolutely wonderful film, full of great ideas. Everybody's fantastic in it. Michael Palin stands out, and his switch from being friendly to what he actually does for the government is rather wonderful. It's got a fantastic set piece, as I said, great production design. It has a theme song that is wonderful and gets into your head. It's got a great ending. Obviously the studio didn't think so, but I think almost 40 years later, I think the ending is more appropriate than the one that the studio wanted. Anyway, that's Brazil. Just a brief chat about Brazil, number 51. Now, number 52 and 53 are Yojimbo and Sanjuro by Akira Kurosawa in this double pack. Obviously the link is there's a samurai fantasy creature that Jonathan Pryce's heroic character in his mind battles, and obviously these are two Chanbara films, basically, Jaideki. So Yojimbo from 1961, which is 110 minutes, and Sanjuro, its knockabout comedy sequel from 1962, which is 96 minutes. I think Yojimbo was possibly the first Kurosawa film I ever saw, and it blew me away. Obviously, I think I had seen A Fistful of Dollars first, and then seeing Yojimbo, I always kind of bore a grudge to A Fistful of Dollars, but I've learned to like Fistful of Dollars a lot more, basically because of Volonte. Obviously, I've become a Volonte disciple in the last few years. But you can't beat Yojimbo. Obviously, Yojimbo is influenced by the West as well, by Dashiell Hammett's Red Harvest. It was based on, and obviously Yojimbo has been remade countless times, the same way Seven Samurai has been remade countless times, including the Walter Hill Last Man Standing with Bruce Willis and Christopher Walken, where Walter Hill said anybody that remakes Kurosawa is an idiot, while he was remaking Kurosawa. I don't really need to say much about Yojimbo as a template film. Great performances by Toshiro Mifune and Tatsuo Nakadai. The thing about Yojimbo is the lead character is a protagonist whose motivations are driven by boredom, and that's motivations that doesn't happen too often in films. Usually, there's a MacGuffin that is driving the protagonist, whether it's revenge, money, romance, but Yojimbo's, it's boredom. The way that Mifune's character just throws a stick up in the air to see which way he's going to go. He could make lots of money during this film, but he's just not interested. It's just something to do. The score is just wonderful. It's playful. It's instantly recognisable. The shoulder shrug is iconic. The film starts with a dog with a human hand in its mouth, which again has been used a few times in films. There's an essay in the booklet, as you'd expect, and a little bit Kurosawa about Yojimbo, looking fairly cool himself there in that picture. This has an audio commentary by Stephen Prince, who does a lot of work with Criterion, and I was actually shocked a few years ago when I found out he died. There's a 40-minute documentary on the making of Yojimbo, created as part of Toho Masterworks series Kurosawa. It is wonderful to create. I don't know anything about that, obviously. Featuring Kurosawa, Tatsuo Nakadai, production designer Yoshiro Muraki, and longtime Kurosawa collaborator Teru Nogami. And there's a theatrical teaser and trailer. Don't need to really say too much about Yojimbo because it's a classic. As is Sanjuro. I don't think Sanjuro actually is mentioned when people talk about great sequels. This one was kind of more a contractual obligation for Kurosawa, but for a film that is kind of a throwaway when you're one of the best filmmakers in history, even a film that's a throwaway film is still magnificent. It's obviously a lighter film until the ending. It's more playful. Mifune's even more playful than he was in the first one. It's about experience over naivete, as again through boredom, Mifune just helps out a young bunch of samurai who are trying to uncover a political plot, but are really naive and frankly not very intelligent about how they're going about it. Again, the same style and the same artwork for the booklet, and again we have interviews from collaborators, and some nice images from Sanjuro. Again, it does have, for all the humour in it, the last like 5 minutes of the film are just brutal and a lesson about violence. One of the best standoffs of all time, which seems to last for minutes, even though it doesn't really. Again, this has another commentary by Stephen Prince. This is a 35-minute documentary from Kurosawa's Wonderful to Create, which again features Kurosawa, Nakadai, Yoshiro Muraki and Teruo Nogami. Again, theatrical teaser and trailer, and obviously the booklet. So Sanjuro, again, for being a sequel, for being a kind of throwaway film, if you like, it's still fantastic. It's a lot of fun, and again, just another, it's got a brilliant ending. So that's just a silly little video about my first run of consecutive Criterions. I would highly recommend all of them. Granted, both these releases are Region A's, so Sanjuro and Yojimbo in Brazil, they're both Region A Blu-rays. I don't know whether you can actually get Brazil in Region B, I'm not actually sure. Obviously there's some contractual rights issue, but let me know if you can get a Region B, but I'm not sure you can. And Yojimbo and Sanjuro are available in the BFI Kurosawa Samurai box set, which I would recommend as well. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know if you have these Criterions and what you think of the films, and hopefully you'll join me again for more of my consecutive Criterions. So this is Solitude Ronin from Solitude Ronin Films, saying farewell.